I'm Brian McClellan, curator of the Cattaraugus County Museum. In honor of America's 250th anniversary, we are sitting down with some of the dedicated researchers of our county's narrative. What you're about to see is one small but powerful piece of our history. These are the stories of our past.
Well, the Underground Railroad is not a railroad. It's not a real railroad. It's a term that was used way back when it started. That would it has the terminology of a railroad component. All right, and for instance, they have station masters, and those are the people who own a house, which we call a station house, where people, I would say enslaved, former enslaved or runaway enslaved persons would hide. They have conductors, which is like your Harriet Tubman, and that's where that's her name. She's the one who takes the enslaved people from one place to another place to another place. She's a conductor, and it has stockholders, which are the people who supply money or food or clothing, or, well, in our day we would call passports to the enslaved people who are running away. And they have one of the station houses is right here in our area, and that was the Olean house. All right, and that was used to be Judge Martin's Inn. That used to be Judge Martin's Inn way back when. It was just a wooden frame houses, as most of our houses were in those days, back in the 1800s, etc. And but he was one of the abolitionists who didn't help the enslaved people gain their freedom, and that's right here in our town. And it's still it's Olean House instead of Martin's Inn. Helene Fallon wrote a book called "And Why Not Any Man? Why Not Every Man?" And she has the track. They're called tracks. She has the tracks, and she said there's 3 tracks and one of them came from Pennsylvania through Olean, through Hinsdale, through Friendship, through Franklinville, through on to Niagara Falls, Buffalo and Niagara Falls, yeah. And it's in her book, "And Why Not Every Man?" That's a plug there. But and also we as in some historians in Cattaraugus County got together, and we researched, and we have a brochure out called Underground Railroad, and it has this one you have to drive. It's not a walking tour, it's a driving tour. And it has tons of information about who was involved, who we think was involved, because after all, the Underground Railroad, you're running away and you got to keep the information quiet. By nature of the beast, you couldn't just advertise, So I would encourage people to get that. It's called the Underground Railroad. Oak Hill Park was the Underground Railroad station. Yes, because it didn't always look like it does now. And it was a cemetery in the day that the people were running away from their enslavement. And people came from all over. They came from, for Sarah Johnson, the one that's mostly the icon here in Olean. She came from the Maryland, Megan Hill from Maryland, and she was about 13 or 15 years old when she wound up in Olean, New York, in about 1833. Or 30 or 33, yeah. Mm-hmm. And people came, and many of the people, I dare say, and I can say, that a lot of the people that that we know, I'm talking about African Americans that we know, have roots back in the time when people were running for their own freedom. Oh, she wound up in right where the Bank of New York is. Oh no, right now where Blueberry Square is right now. That's where she wound up, and she said from sand pumpings. I got most of the things I've got about Sarah Johnson is from a magazine called Sand Pumpings. It was by Waldo Patnotti's students made all these magazines. I think it's number 8. And she said about her clothes were tattered, and her feet were just rolled up in cloth, and people when they saw her thought she was a black bear because they'd not ever seen a black person before, and so Dr. Andrew Mead took her in. I mean, there's things that happened before that, and she became a housekeeper, and consequently he taught her how to midwife. Now I thought, okay, midwife, that's good, that's awesome, that's wonderful. All you have to do is just go and mid the wife and go. Oh, that was terrible. and go home. But no, after research, midwifing is you stay with the family, you help with the birthing, and you stay to make sure that they're all right. So you give up part of your life to serve other people, serve the family. Yeah, she was quite the one, and she was an icon because she was well loved in the area. She was, yeah. She had let's see what else. She had a house in a deed, right. The deed reads 1850, and here's a black woman in 1850 and have a house, and everybody and people are still running around trying to catch people who and sending them back home and all. And the fugitive slave law, on top of that, the fugitive slave law has just about teeth. Whereas if I knew that you were hoarding somebody, helping somebody run away for their freedom. If I don't tell on you, then I would be in trouble. $10,000 or whatever, and that's a lot of money back then. It's a lot of money today too, but a lot of money back then. On my house, on all my land, or I'd be in jail. So yeah, and all of that going on in here. So and yes, not one runaway person of slave background was caught and sent back to back to the South in Olean. No one. Yes, that says a lot about Olean. Yes, my adopted city. But it's real cool the way they got through it, Like for instance, you got Katie's, up on 98 by Franklinville, by Ishiway, There were a group of people that they knew because they had it in their diaries, they had it in their newspapers, they had it. Come here. This is a safe place. For instance, in Katie's, right on the corner, is Stagecoach Inn, which was a bona fide underground railroad station. And I was in there. We had a field trip, and we went down in the basement and all that, and saw where the wall was sealed up now, but that we saw that. And you talk about a spooky feeling. Whenever I investigate these places. It's such a spooky feeling. I mean, it's wow. Cause I'm realizing the history of, what it must have taken. Many church groups were against slavery. You know, we're talking about the Quakers, of course, and the Methodists, of course, and Presbyterian, and like Friendship. This is out of our county, but Friendship. Oh my gosh, that was a bevy of people who helped and wrote about it and told people to come on. If I'm trying to think of church preachers and stuff. I can't think of it right now. Sorry about that. But yeah, the church groups, yes, they help. Yes. And you know that the thing is about the Underground Railroad. They have we talk about communication today and how you say something and it's all over town and everything. But you can't beat the Underground Railroad system. You can't beat the Underground Railroad system. And you know, back in that day, when I think about when I was going to school and everything, not knowing about these parts of, like, for instance, part of the Underground Railroad, other than people ran away and they were caught and the hanging and stole back south and everything. But they didn't tell us about the resilience of a teacher, the bravery of the people who left something that, imagine, I've only known Olean. I've never been anywhere else. This is it. I'm not allowed to go anywhere else. This is all I know. But somehow that's not enough. And so somebody tells me about a North Star you can travel with and just use that as a guide and get to something better. I know nothing about what's outside, but I still have that pull because I feel it's right, and I don't want to be a slave no more. And so I step outside. Imagine how much bravery that takes. I mean, I got lost when I came here. I got lost in Portville. Just getting out of your own situation, and like that. And that wasn't taught that in school. It wasn't. They had such. For instance, back to Sarah Johnson, whom I love very much, as is obvious. Back to Sarah Johnson, she was about 12 or 13 years old, and she left her plantation. She went at night. She gathered stuff in her skirt. She gathered food and stuff, and went across a creek and up a hill. And she stayed on that hill until they stopped searching for her. And in the meantime, she said about 10 days. In the meantime of those 10 days, when they were searching and then go back and then search and go back, in the meantime, she'd come down at night and get some more food and go back to the hill. And then when she finally realized that they had finished, they were not going to search for it anymore, then she started her journey. And what did she have to guide her was the North Star. And she said when it was cloudy, she followed the way of the geese. And where did she sleep? She slept behind barns, in dead, abandoned places. Only traveled by night. That's spooky. She got to 2 Mile Road. And a youngster, she said a little girl, so brought her all the way over to the dock, and she just kept walking. And now you can imagine Olean is not like we say it today. I mean, in muddy streets and wooden places and stuff like that. And she just kept walking until she got so tired. That's where she sort of, I don't want to say dropped, but she was standing. That's where she ended up. And then people noticed her and they made her feel welcome. They fed her and all and helped her get a job, welcome her into their homes. And so, yeah, they did. So she stayed because she liked it, sort of like I do.